Two.
Hi, we're live again from my home office, and I'm here to talk to all the people in Y27 and beyond. I'm ready to take any questions that you have. An update on the campaign. We've done 25,000 calls. That means we've done more calls in the last month for the entire campaign. Most of those calls were done at home by volunteers. If you're one of the people at home making calls on behalf of the campaign, thank you. It's always been a grassroots campaign. What you're seeing right now, we didn't hire some big media firm to do this. I mean, we did our best. And we have Guy Torin. Can people hear you or no? If not, Torin, he does all this digital stuff. He set this all up for me. Thank you, Torin, for doing that. And I have another one of our team members on today to give an update on the campaign and to talk about him and his story, which is great, and he's a great person. And after that's over, we'll take your questions. So if you have questions while we're doing this, write them down. I'm with our campaign chair, Jim G.I. Sharper. Jim, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, we lost you? Are you there? Oh, you are there. Okay, good.
I'm here. Yes.
You hear me?
Thank you, Nate. Yes.
You're there. So, Jim, let's not go back. I want to cut some of the story out. I met Jim several years ago. Long story short, he brought me into politics. I had no political ambition, really, and he said, "You want to be part of the team?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to knock some doors for you. I'll do what you want me to do." And he said, "No, I want you to run for town supervisor, which is the equivalent of mayor." And I was like, "Are you crazy? I can't run for supervisor." But we did, and we won. And I barely won. I won by a couple of votes on election night, 2 votes. And we had a great time together. He helped me manage the town. He was my my deputy supervisor, and he was a great person, and he is a great person. So when I ran for Congress 2 years ago, I said, "Jim, would you be part of the team?" Because again, I'm very new to politics, and we're going to talk about the nitty-gritty of politics tonight a little bit. And he was a great part of the 2018 campaign against Chris Collins. He's a good friend, and all the young people that are on my team, we all look up to him and his guidance and his wisdom and insight. He's just a decent human being. That's all I can say. And he's still involved in local politics. His heart is local politics. Jim, he had opportunities to run for statewide office and other offices, and he never did it. He wanted to focus on the local matters that meant most to him. And he did that for almost 50 years. He was kind enough to help us because he is such a resource and such a great person. But, I think his heart always is on a local level. So I want to talk about all that with you, Jim. Was my summary fair?
Oh, very fair and very kind.
So, Jim, let's talk about who you are for a second. You grew up in Niagara Falls, New York, right?
Yep. Grew up in Niagara Falls until the age of 16. In 1964, my parents picked us up and moved us to Grand Island. So I've been a veteran of Grand Island since that day. The only time I really left it is when I joined the Air Force in the 60s. But I'm back.
But how many brothers and sisters did you have? You had a big family.
I have a big family, yes. After 5 kids were born, I decided to get out, and then another 5 showed up afterwards.
But listen, even to this day, you're still the big brother for all of them.
Oh, I'm the top.
I love your younger sister. Go ahead.
I'm the top dog, and Beverly is right on my heels all the way. And so it's always been 1-2 with her and I.
And it's a great team. And Jim's sister is Bev, and she's fantastic. Another person I have great respect for. So, Jim, you grew up. You in many ways, you're a father figure for your family. You helped them together through hard times. I know some of the stories. Jim had every kind of crazy job you could think of. He was a chimney sweep. He helped manage the hotel. He helped with the gas. I mean, everything you can think of, he did to get by as a kid. Right, Jim?
Well, the issue is when you grew up back in the 60s, in the early days, you pretty much did everything you could to survive. Our parents were really well off, so therefore we started working early. I think I started working the gas station at the age of 9, and I don't think they'll allow it today, but I was pumping gas at 9 years old, rebuilding carburetors by the time I was 10 years old. So, yeah, you do what you got to do to
And
survive.
then you wanted to go to the military, and during the Vietnam era, you joined up.
Yep,
You were in the Air Force, right?
I
And
was
you
there.
spent a lot of your time in Panama.
A lot of it in Panama. Yeah, they
Right.
wouldn't let me
You,
into the war zone. They were afraid I would do something crazy, so they kept me in the canal zone, which is Panama Canal.
you came back home, and how you got into politics early, Jim, local politics.
Yeah. Well, I
Like
came
you
home.
were in your 20s, weren't you?
Yeah. Well, I came home in the 70s, and then I traveled the United States from 70 all the way to probably the 80s, and then in the 80s I got involved with politics.
You
And,
were
and
working, traveling, and
first,
you kind of you did some like engineer type work, right?
yes, I'm an assistant engineer, computer guy, network.
Networking, and I know you did a lot of stuff. You were involved in many different, both on the school level, and you were in sales with computers, and
Yep.
you're still kind of a bit of a whiz with computers, I think. The stuff you did for the town of Grand Island for free is amazing.
Yes,
You really did an amazing job.
I
So
really.
after that, you came back. Sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Well, I feel very strong about my community. The Air Force kind of ingrained in my DNA that serving others is more valuable and more rewarding than anything else you can do in your life.
Listen, I don't know how to explain this. Jim eats, breathes, sleeps, whatever. His life is Grand Island. He is
Yeah.
a multiple Citizen of the Year award winner. He is a lifetime Citizen of the Year winner. Is that what was the award called, Jim?
Yes. I mean, it's really scary when you end up
Lifetime Achievement Award.
lifetime achievement award. You go, wait. My time isn't done yet, guys. I'm still haven't figured out what my achievements are. But thank you for the award.
And when I drive around with Jim on Grand Island, it's overwhelming. I love the place too, but he knows every inch of it, and that's all he wants to talk about is this issue, or how do we fix this issue, or how to make this thing better. But politics wasn't easy for you, right, Jim? You ran. How old were you when you first ran?
I was 30, 32, my first run.
You're 30, 32, and how did it go?
Not well, not well. I ran in 1985, and I got my butt kicked. Then I came back in 87. Oh yeah, I got my butt kicked. In 89, though, I won. So I went into office as a councilman in January 1st of 1990, and then stayed
You
in.
ran twice, and you lost, and you kept at it. And I saw some of the pictures from your early campaigns. Very creative stuff.
Well, I'm like you. You want to you want to share, and you basically put your best foot out there to be seen and heard.
You did this. One of the things you did is you had this float I saw on a flatbed truck, and they recreated the Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah,
with trees and a river.
Yeah.
And that was kind of elaborate.
The old brick road to boot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So Jim, you won. You're on the town board, and you're let's be honest, Jim, you were a Republican, right?
Yes, it was.
Now, why were you a Republican?
Well, when you're young and you start to get in politics, and you really don't know what is really your philosophy in politics. You know politics, you know about it, but understanding what is your philosophy and what's in your gut as far as what you believe isn't quite as developed as yet. So as a Republican, I found myself swimming upriver most of the time and being fought down because of the fact I believed in certain things, and that doesn't quite fit the grain of what party I actually belong to. And so therefore,
you've been a Democrat for a long time at this point.
Yeah, I've been in office 8 years of politics. At that point, I've been in politics for almost 10. 8 years as a councilman, probably, well, as they said, 10 years in the rank and file of politics. And mercy, most of the time in that 10 years before I got in office, I was looking at the issues that were facing Grand Island. So that's what drove me.
You were focused on national issues, yeah.
Yeah, I was more about the issues than it was about the political. And course, eventually you wait.
But at some point, you came to the conclusion that your values were not represented by the Republican Party, and you switched over and you said, I'm going to be a Democrat. And I want to talk about that because you had a lot of friends that were Republicans, that people you had known for a long time, people you had served with in elected office. And you've told me in the past that it was very painful because when you told them, hey, listen, I'm going to be a Democrat, you got ostracized.
Yeah.
You were blackballed to some extent. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was pretty much blacklisted. I stepped out of office in 1998 due to the fact that because of my philosophies, they decided they weren't going to endorse me. So in 98, I walked out of office. I then went back and got my career and working with computers, working with industry for nearly 30 years, and then stepped into education, where I then spent the next 15 years. So at that point, at the end of the 15 years, I decided that I want to get back involved. And that's when I realized just how blacklisted I was due to the fact that they wouldn't give me an interview, let alone an endorsement. At that point, I realized my philosophies didn't match up to where I was and whom I was talking to. And at that point, I decided that I'm not about to give up. It's time for me to get down and dirty and figure out how to stay relevant and get my communications back online, meaning talk about the things I felt were very important to Grand Island. And therefore, I talked to the Democrats, and I had a long conversation. At the end of it, I changed my affiliation. And I have not been unhappy since that. I kind of feel like I came home to a party that really fit.
I mean, I always say this. Listen, there's good people in both parties, obviously.
Oh, there is.
But I think power in this little community, the Republican Party has a lot of power, and with that power in this small little community, I think people get a little more edgy. And the Democratic Party, we here in Grand Island, we kind of know that we don't have a lot of power because party affiliation in this country in this time of division is so strong. So I think we're able to kind of be ourselves more. And I just, the environment you've created. So listen, again, I wasn't in politics. I never had a dream of running for office. I followed politics. I was passionate about different issues, but I never thought of actually being a candidate. And that's part of the message I want to get out today with Jim is that you can be a candidate. If someone told me a couple of years ago I'm going to run for Congress, I would have said, you're nuts. There's no way. And there's opportunity out there like crazy. So but the party I came into, the party that Jim created on Grand Island, was about warmth and empathy and compassion and decency. And the people you've brought into the party, and you've recruited a lot of people to this party, they're good people. They're people that you want to be around. And tell me about finding people to be part of politics and how difficult that is on the local level.
Well, I think that with me at politics, there's politics meaning that you can belong to a party and you can turn around and learn how to navigate, learn how to align with this person or that person. To me, politics is a little different. Politics to me is about what is going on within our community, who has the heart for the community, who is concerned about where we are as a community. And to me, when I interview people, there's politicals saying, you tell me what to do, where to do it, what to say, what not to say, and I'll do exactly what you tell me to do. That's not the person I'm looking for. The person I'm looking for is the one that wants to have a serious conversation about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And that is what I look for. And every time I sit down with the individual across the table, in that conversation,
it's hard to get people to run, Jim, right? You've told me in the past people said they were going to run, and then 2 weeks later, or a month before the campaign, they said, I'm out. I'm done. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's the scary part. I mean, you can coach people to get involved and stand up and be counted, but then sometimes when they stand up and be counted, you think it's going to be easy. But then all of a sudden they face the other side with the conversation saying, oh, you don't want to do that. Oh, you're one of them. Oh, and then all of a sudden they start to get shy about wanting to be involved, and they basically run away from it. And again, that's why
there's a moment for anybody in politics where you say, holy cow, what did I do? Why did I do this? And I just tell people, you got to push through that.
You got to push
And there's
through.
also a moment. Go ahead. There's also a moment in politics where you realize, wow, this is a lot of work. Like I got to go collect signatures. I mean, there's a lot of fun. Obviously, it's a ton of fun. But there's a lot of moments where you're like, holy cow, I would rather be home watching television, and I got to go with Jim Sharp and collect 200 signatures tonight.
Yes.
Go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
Well, knocking on doors, there's a mechanical process to it. I mean, you got to qualify yourself. You got to turn around and do certain things and jump through certain hoops that make you a certified candidate. But it really comes down to if it would bother you to do that if you saw what you really would do at the end of the day if you did all that, you know.
Well, Jim, I got to say to you, when I first ran, I was unconventional, right? I was, I had fun with it when I ran on the local level. And there's two things I want to thank you for. Number one is in life, there's a lot of closers, right? And we all experience rejection. And I'm going to tell everybody who's out there, if you're trying to get involved in politics on any level, get ready to experience a lot of rejection. And, you may not, but, Jim, you didn't reject me outright. You said,
No.
come in. Which is so rare, not just in politics, but in life. He said, come be part of this team. In fact, why don't you run for the number one job we have?
Right.
And so thank you for that, because that's very rare in life to have people like you who are not just territorial, but welcoming. And the second thing is you allowed me to be me. You never tried to control me or tamper me down. And you made me a better version of who I was at that age, but you never tried to shut me up. And I always appreciated that, because you're the chair, right? And a lot of those people on the small committee, they love you and they supported you. But instead of trying to close my voice, you allowed me to amplify my voice and find my voice.
Absolutely. That's what this is all about, is people to be able to function as a group, but as individuals as well.
So I want you to talk a little bit about our team now. I mean, we have a great campaign manager, and Nicole Hutchler-Ray, and we all know I love to get her on here. She's as tough as nails, but we can't get her to come on. And we have a lot of great young people who are active and involved, and they're smart. Talk about our team for a second, and what kind of team we have.
I think the team we have is multifaceted. I think we have some fantastic, talented people. From the people that are working on the fields with the phones, to the people that are out there putting the house parties together, to the ones that are actually working on the media that we need to get out to the different newspapers and so forth. Their creativity, their excitement, their enthusiasm to me is very impressive. This is the kind of thing I like to see happen when I'm involved with a campaign, is people who have a passion for what they're doing. And you have the best team I've seen so far.
I think we have a good combination of young people who are fresh and want to contribute. And then Nicole's brought in some professionals who really know this stuff. And for, one of the things she's done well is she's bridged the gap between that, kind of naive enthusiasm versus the stone cold professionalism that you need to win a campaign. And again, just like when I ran at the local level, we're underdogs because the enrollment hurts us. We don't have the funds that our opponents have. I'm not independently wealthy. Neither are you, Jim.
No.
But what we are is sincere and passionate. And I think that's a great thing. So if somebody wants to get involved in local politics, give me a step-by-step guide. What do they do, Jim?
Well, the first thing you do is you look to the leadership that's out there. I mean, obviously, I'm Grant Allen. I'm very receptive to talk to anybody at any time about politics, and especially about people that want to be involved about what's going on within our country. Find the chairmen, find the leaders that are standing up and speaking. Follow them, listen to them. And Nate, people just calling into you and saying, "I want to get involved." If they do that, you just plug them into the places that will get them involved.
We plug you right in. And trust me, we plug you in, and if you do a little bit of work, you'll have a chance to do more.
Exactly. There's no waiting in line. That was been my motto forever, is that it isn't something where you come in and get through the ropes and then finally get to a spot. It's about getting involved and going right to the top. And everybody has a choice of where they want to fit. at the top of the rung, middle of the rung, or the bottom of the rung. But bottom line
Well,
is,
the bottom
it's
line
all
is there's
thinking
so much
about.
work to do that you can always contribute, no
Oh,
matter what you're doing.
yeah.
There's
And
so
people,
much to be done that we're always overwhelmed with. It's a tsunami of work because
oh,
politics leadership is about persuasion, right? We're in
yeah,
the business of persuading hundreds of thousands of people, and we can't do that by buying attack ads. We have to literally go out and reach these people by phone, or in the old days we'd knock doors before the corona situation. So I want to talk about that, Jim. I want to talk about your thoughts about this coronavirus, the comparison between the past and now. You've seen a lot in your life. Uh, is there anything that's ever been like this to you in your life?
I've never seen anything like this. I mean, the only thing that I can even compare this to is when I was in Panama and the military overthrew the government and there was confinement. Everybody got confined, otherwise got shot. But the point was, it was a total upheaval of society. And what we're feeling right now is a one of helplessness and one where we're feeling that they're hoping is an answer around the corner and somebody's saying, oh, there is always hope. Well, there's always hope here. But the question is dealing with the fact that you're going to be quarantined, dealing with the fact that you're told that if you're over 70 years old, you're going to have to stay in your house until this epidemic is over. Even though you know you can go out, it's still the thought that I've been told that I have to stay in. That's just
And do you feel pressure when you're out? I know I've yelled at you and said I'm sorry to do it, but I'm like, Jim, you got to go home. And listen, you're a mover and a shaker. You want to be delivering signs and going to meetings and meeting
yeah.
people. Is it been emotionally difficult for you?
I think it has. It's been somewhat unsettling to me because I'm used to getting in the car and taking off and meeting with a bunch of people and deciding how we're going to do this or how we're going to do that. And all of a sudden, I find myself a little bit on the outside in a dark room with not a whole lot of light on it. And to me, it's basically my goodness, it's kind of shocking. But
But the
I
good
think
news is you're home with a nurse. Your wife,
the
your
nurse,
lovely wife Cindy, is a longtime nurse. Like
yes.
if you're going to be stuck with anybody, she's the person to be stuck with, right?
I totally agree. I adore my wife, my nurse. But even her telling me that I can't do this or can't do that is kind of unsettling in itself. But I appreciate what she's doing and I appreciate the occupation she has and how she puts herself out there for people. It's just,
Yes, me too. She's a wonderful person, and
yeah.
we're all grateful for her. And I'm going to say publicly to the world, Cindy, thank you for letting me take your husband away for all these little adventures we worked on over the last few years, and all the time he's committed to my campaign. I appreciate that.
I'm sure she does appreciate it. I do love her.
Yeah, I know you do. So Jim, beyond that, all right. So right now we're going into this election, and I want to talk about the last. This is difficult for us because we did so many things the old-fashioned way, and we got to be really good at it, right? The rallies, and we had so much fun in 2018. We'd have hundreds of people come to our events, and because we had that base of support and energy, I think you and I and the whole team was hopeful that we could build on it, and the people in the community were hopeful about that. And we still see our signs out there. The online activity is great. We're making more phone calls than ever. But talk about 2018 and what a shift it's been because we're not able to engage in all the things we wanted to engage before. Can you talk about that for a second? Because I'm feeling that, and I want to hear your thoughts about it.
Well, my thoughts on it is like this. The bottom line is, and as I talked to you about during the campaigns, a campaign is a campaign, but it has to be a movement. And the movement is about people. It's about feelings. It's about something happening coming in from different areas, different groups from different parts. They're not connected. People who are feeling that there's something new coming and something that they can all get their heads around and saying, I believe in this movement. I believe in what I'm that candidate. I believe in what we're all about. And it isn't just about an individual. It's about what we're representing as a organization and how it's going to affect our society. Right now, we have not been able to have that same movement because we're not seeing people. Because we used to travel 300 miles or 150 miles or an hour and a half just to get to the other side of the 27th. Because
Constantly, we are constantly doing it. Yep.
We could see one person. That one person became two people. That two people became 20 people, and 20 people became 300 people. Well, we don't have
You
that.
ruined your car, and I ruined my car
No,
last year.
two vehicles went down up in smoke. But
Well, more than two. Yeah, Torrin's vehicle, everyone's vehicle was over after that campaign.
It's a different world we live in right now, because right now we're in that room and we have to light that room and get that same movement going on. And that makes our campaign a whole lot different this time than it did last time. Because connecting with
But
people.
don't you feel hope because of what we see online and the energy that we see online? I do. I feel, first of all, to your point, that saying this is bigger than either me or you or anybody else. I fully acknowledge that I was put in a position because of luck or fate or whatever else, where I had the opportunity to represent a lot of the values that a lot of people that were ignored in NY27 share. And right. I did that to the best of my ability. And I think we're going to win because we did light a fire that was just, it was ready to be lit. It was kindling everywhere. But win or lose, eventually I'll go away. All politicians go away. And I'll be involved in some other way. And I'm hoping the work we've done will continue to elevate and motivate candidates and committees across NY27, people that care about healthcare, care about working people, care about the values of the Democratic Party of RFK and JFK that you and I believe in. And I think this is a movement that's much bigger than this individual campaign or any individual on the campaign.
Right.
Go ahead.
And that's what it's all about, really, is moving a community to believe in itself.
Let me ask you this. So I want to talk about, this might be boring, we'll keep it short, but he and I could talk Grand Island issues all day long. I think you've come full circle, Jim, because now the Republican Party and the new Republican supervisor, I didn't run again so I could run for Congress, and there's a new Republican supervisor, and he kept you on to run the long-range planning committee. That's got to be rewarding to see that everyone values you at this point.
I think you don't stop. Obviously, I've been planning for the community of Grand Island for the past 25 years, with doing the master plan in the 90s, and then coming back and with you and I doing the master plan update in 2018. But it's more important now than ever, and even they recognize it, that the future of Grand Island will only be successful if you can implement the plans that actually are put on the table. And who knows them better than I? And I appreciate
you do. You know that stuff. You were such a resource for me. Whenever we had a project, I said, Jim, I want to get this done. You and I were able to work. It was great. I think the pairing of skill sets was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And you did, and we worked well together. And I know I'll always be grateful for the things you helped me get done on Grand Island. And there's a lot that we got done, and we could talk about it. But from solar to conservation to new business opportunities, there's a lot we did. And when I drive around Grand Island today, I'm grateful for it. But one thing I want to talk about, because it's been so successful, especially in the last couple of weeks with Corona, is that West River Trail. My kid's school sent out a notification today saying everyone should go enjoy the West River Trail. And my mind immediately went back to the town halls that we had in the high school where people wanted to kill us over the West River Trail. And I know that was painful for you and for me, but we got through that, and it kind of formed my political identity, where I said I can't control the consequences. I can only control my actions. If we do what's right, we'll let the consequences follow.
Exactly.
And I knew getting that path done was the right thing to do, no matter what pain we were going to experience for it. And when I don't know if you've been out there the last couple of days, it is packed and it is beautiful. And there are people walking their dogs and little kids riding their bikes. It's a 7-mile trail from north to south. It was always a no-brainer to do it the way they did it. And it was a great investment for the town. But that project in particular, does it give you the same satisfaction that it gives me?
It does. I mean, again, it's following through with an idea that was coming. It just took a lot of political capital to make it happen completely. And when people were knocking on the door for us from the state to say, help us, and that's when you turned around and said, we need to do this. We need to lock and load and do it. And there's when it really got done. But until then, you probably would have just been floundering. And I don't think it would have ever happened if we hadn't turned
Well,
around.
they said they were going to pull the funding.
Oh yeah.
And they were going to let the road just rot.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point they said the funding can go to 100 other projects. We're not gonna waste our time with this.
Right.
So and I sweated thinking about it, but I'm really grateful for that experience on the local level. It was difficult, and I learned. I grew as a leader. But man, it put me through a heck of a lot so that I could
live and learn.
Kind of know who I am politically. Yeah, you live and you learn, right? Well, listen, Jim, you're the best. Everyone loves you, and if you could listen, this guy, he is. If you meet him in person, he's as charming as it gets. But there, I got to tell you, I want you to tell your Joe Biden story, because when so Jim is pretty darn good at politics. He can work a room like no other. But when a couple of years ago, when I ran against Chris Collins, the one national figure to come help us was Joe Biden. Now, there's things I don't agree with Joe Biden on. Okay, it's a lot. But I'll tell you what, for him to stick his neck out and spend a day with us, it was great. It was fantastic. And he was extremely down to earth. He was like a regular person. There was no air about him. He was just kind and decent, and talked to us as peers rather than looking down upon us. And he, I don't know, he really impressed me as a human being. But Jim, tell your story about him. I love your story.
Well, when he first came in, I said to you, if you really want to see how a politician connects with the room, you got to pay attention to Joe Biden. And when he walked into that restaurant, it was quite extraordinary on how he worked through the room. And he made a personal effort not to talk to just a few people in the room, to be just seen in the room. He made us to talk to every single individual. When I got an opportunity to speak to him, and I was sitting there going, now I'm a veteran, and I pretty much have heard every approach word or every approach paragraph you can, or introduction to somebody addressing somebody. But Joe blew me out of my out of my shoes when I walked towards him, and he walked towards me, and he turned around and looked at me and pointed up at my hair and said, if I had that hair, I could run for president. And I was taken back by what he said. I couldn't help but smile and respond. And I think that's what makes
Jim, you blush. Yeah. You blush.
It was one I felt that was real. I mean, it was a real conversation with a real man, and I really enjoyed that encounter with him.
He's a real person, and I can't vouch or justify every vote he's ever had, but I can tell you one-on-one, he was sincere. He was sincere. If I were to say anything besides that, I'd be lying. Now, do I know everything about his life? No, but I can tell you that he took the time when he didn't have to fight for NY27, and he talked to anybody. You saw, Jim.
Oh yeah.
If there's a guy that was, had a MAGA hat on. He'd go up to him, put his arm around him, and they talk like they're best friends. And I saw it firsthand. And he told me, you got to talk to everyone, Nate, because everyone, we're all brothers. His attitude was so magnanimous and egalitarian. It was, I don't know, I thought he was great. So beyond that, we're going forward, right, Jim?
We're going forward.
Yep, we're going to win this, and we're going to win it for the people of NY27.
Exactly.
And thank you for all your years of service. My words are weak. I cannot express to you what you've been as a role model and a friend. But thank you for all your service. I appreciate it. And many people feel the same way I do.
Well, I appreciate the journey we've been on together. So, and I'm looking forward to the journey we're going to have going forward.
All right, sir. Thank you. So now we're going to take Torrin. Are you there? Hold on, Jim. I'm not sure what happened next. You might be good.
I am here.
You want to take some questions? Want to leave Jim on?
Yes. Yeah. Let's take a look through these, the chat here. Give me just 1 second. First question is, Jim, how are you dealing with the isolation?
I'm working on my computer a lot. I'm reorganizing all the files in my hard drive. I'm working on databases that of voters for the Nair County area. I'm doing anything I can to keep my brain functioning and focused. I'm also part of my association, and I'm looking over the renovation of my townhouses, and I'm doing everything I can within the confinement of my area. So I may run out of things, and when I do that, I will definitely go stir crazy.
gotta keep busy. Absolutely.
Yeah. Fine project.
Here's a question from a constituent in the district, which I'm gonna pivot more towards Jim, because it was directed at Nate with regards to what Nate would do for veterans in the district. But I'm wondering, Jim, what do you, as a veteran yourself, what do you feel are the greatest opportunities or the needs of veterans in the district?
Well, one, a great outcoming for people that have appreciation for veterans in our country, both those that are serving our country and those who have served our country. And I find that exciting because in the 70s, there wasn't that excitement at all when we came home. But the veterans are ones that still have their heart for the community, and we should have the heart for them. I work with the American Legions, and we're building up a memorial wall for veterans. We're going to be putting a park and a statue up for Charles N. DeGlopper, a Congressional Medal winner. And the issue for them is most of us are getting old, and looking out for them is very important. And to me, it's my role to make sure I represent them well.
Well, I want to say that a second. Not just Jim. I mean, I got to say it. I go to these service organizations with you all the time, and there's a lot of seniors there.
Yes.
Not just the veterans. A lot of these organizations, and I want to say to people, I mean, whether it's the League of Women Voters or whatever, we need young people to get involved in those organizations, right?
Yes.
I mean, like, I don't know how many organizations you run, Jim. I mean, or you're involved in. What happens? Like, you know, eventually we're all gone, right? What happens when the next generation takes over? Do all these organizations die? I was talking to Jean Crane out in Orleans County. She's going through the same thing. There's so many people, they can't get young people to be involved in these organizations.
Well, that's the key, is that we need to be, as senior members of the community, you know, the veterans organization, we need to be mentoring as much as we can for the younger population. A lot of people want to be involved, they just don't know how to be involved. And I think that's what's important for us seniors, that we turn around and embrace the young people and help them and mentor through how they can be most effective, how they can communicate and get their voices heard. We can't be isolating ourselves as much as our age becomes, oh, you're old, so you're not part of my age group, so you don't understand me. I do understand you, and because I've been there. But it's about us being accepting of their generation as well. That's the hardest part for the senior generation, is to embrace and encourage the younger generation. They have their voice.
Accept that the younger generation may bring change of some sort, right?
Right. And it's going to bring change, and that change shouldn't be seen as a negative.
Right. What else? Go ahead. Anything else, Torrin? Anything else out there?
Sure, we've got some questions. They aren't necessarily. I'll throw them to the both of you. As two generations of local leaders who have had to find solutions in difficult times. The first question is, if you were in Congress right now, how do you feel about the stimulus bill?
Oh, well, I'll say the version that was first put forward was disgusting. I mean, the version that the GOP first put forward was a slush fund with no oversight whatsoever. Now, do I think what they put forward is adequate? No, I don't think it's adequate. I don't think people realize the struggle that regular people are going through. But at least because of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the fight that's going on, or the debate that they put forward in a very difficult time, there's something in it for regular people. I mean, I'm sick of bailouts in this country that bail out the biggest corporations and leave nothing for everybody else. And you can see there's limitations on the cash payments to regular people. But again, I don't think this is the type of stimulus we need. I am a firm believer that we have a bubble-up economy, not a trickle-down economy. I don't think trickle-down works. I think when you concentrate wealth at the top, it does just that. It concentrates, it pools, and it stagnates. When you allow people who need money to have money, they'll do things like go to baseball games or go to restaurants or buy basic necessities that power the entire economy. If you want to get the economy moving, you have to make sure that American families are safe and secure. So I don't think this stimulus does anything that we need it to do over the long term. I think it's a Band-Aid. And I think what you're going to see, especially if the president gets his way, by continuing to pretend that this is not a real problem in our country, we're not facing a health crisis. If you continue to address the economic crisis without addressing the underlying problems in our society, like the fact that so many people do not have access to health care or maybe avoiding going to a hospital because they can't pay for it, which will continue to drive the spread of the virus. If you don't eventually address the health issues and the underlying social issues, this will be just the first of many bailouts and many stimulus packages. And, where does it end? We may be up to 10 trillion by the end of this problem. So what do I think about it? It's a necessary step, and I understand that politics is about compromise, but it is not even close to doing what really needs to be done in this country to protect the families of America. Jim,
do you mind if I have a second part of that question for Jim? As part of the golden generation, as somebody who is retired, who's you and your colleagues, your fortunes may depend on the market, but you've also been through a number of recessions throughout your life. Do you think that the approach taken by the administration goes far enough?
Well, first off, the conversation's been had over and over again about balancing budgets. And that's the thing that sticks in my mind is, are we passing the debt on to the future generations? For years and years, we heard that conversation. In the last 3 years or 4 years, we have not heard that conversation whatsoever. And all we're doing is pouring more and more money at the problem, but not really addressing it. And the stimulus issue, putting more money in all of our pockets, it is important. The one thing they did do was make sure it didn't become a big bonus check at the end of the day by the corporation presidents and CEOs. But I think that was very importantly put in place. Otherwise, I would have been actually disgusted with all of it. But hopefully, the people will take that money and put it back into the system. But if the services are not there, what are they putting the money into? I think that we really need to address how we actually distribute our funds in our country. I think this is a Band-Aid, like Nathan said. I'm not certified that it's going to do anything other than give it a shot in the arm and say, well, look what we've done, and now we're going to be, happier tomorrow. I think that this epidemic has to get over first. They better find a antidote for it so we can turn around and get our shots so we don't have it repeat itself. Until that happens, I'm not certain that we're beyond the problem time.
It's a health crisis first.
Yes,
if you solve the health crisis, you solve the economic crisis.
Exactly.
And if I take a step further, you talk about debt, Jim. I mean, we could talk about monetary theory and the purpose of debt, but let's talk about the fact that in 2018 they passed a nearly $2 trillion health or tax cut for the most wealthy Americans. So we're talking about this unprecedented move today to stimulate our economy in a time of crisis. Trump calls himself a wartime president. Well, you gave away just as much to a tax cut that created a deficit and put Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid at risk. So I don't feel great confidence in the leadership of this president, especially when he's already been reckless with fiscal policy. And even before the Corona thing, we always heard about how great the Trump economy was. I'm like, well, not in NY27, where we have the worst job market in the whole country, where thousands and thousands of people in our communities don't have health care, where young people have to leave because, we have some of the worst graduation rates in Rochester and Buffalo, and there's very few job opportunities here. I mean, come to NY27, President Trump. I know a lot of people voted for you here, but they did that because they thought you would fix things. And it's gotten worse under your leadership. It's a repeat of the same mistakes that we've seen over and over in this country. I just don't think it's right. And if I was in leadership, I'd be advocating in every single way. I'd be asking, it's simple. What would I do to help my family? What policies would help my family and my neighbors and the people I grew up with? Because that's what I'm going to fight for. I'm going to fight for the people that I love and care about. Anything else? If we're good, Torin. I don't want to waste people's or go too much.
Just one more question. This comes from AJ on Facebook. Nate, what have you heard from Albany on delaying the election?
Well, I don't think we're going to hear until next week. I think that the governor will have the opportunity to do an executive order. But I'll explain to you why I think we should delay the election. You can hear it out of my mouth. This is serious. Now, I fought for this election for 3+ years of my life. And I know how important it is to bring representation to NY27 in this time of crisis. And I also know that as a Democrat, I'd be able to work with the Democratic majority that's in Congress. I won't just be going there to fight for President Trump or anybody else. I'll be able to go and make an immediate impact from this region because I'll be able to work with the party that's in power. So I was excited about April 28th. I thought things were moving in the right direction. But now we'll have a fluke election if we have an election because we don't even know if people will be able to operate the polls. We don't know if we have the infrastructure across 8 counties to do a mail-in. We just don't know. We don't know how it would work. Democracy requires people, people, crazy power. People power is what it means, right? So it comes from the Latin word, right? So if we don't have people, there can't be democracy. And people need to stay home. Why do you need to stay home? I was driving today. I had to go get some groceries. I'm home every day, which is, in some ways, it's been great to see my kids more often than I usually do. But I went to get groceries. I was very careful. I wear the gloves when I go in the store. And I'm not doing that because I'm rude or trying to offend anybody. I'm trying to protect the people that I care about. So I went into the store. I got the things I needed to go. But I noticed as I drove home, all the stores that were open. And I drove by my favorite sub shop. And not only were people in there back to back eating, there was also the takeout line, but people were in there and the place was teeming. And then I drove by a pawn shop that was open and a barber shop. And I felt like getting out of my car, and I don't want to be patronizing, but I want to say to people, go home. If it's not to protect you, it's to protect the people around you. If we don't get this, I'm lucky to have family overseas, and I'm able to compare notes with them. And I understand the steps they took to control the virus in South Korea in particular. They quarantine people, not forever, long enough to get their health system in a position where they could manage the flow of people that were ill. This isn't going to last forever. And if we fix it, our economy will come back the right way. By this summer, there is going to be treatments that it can at least suppress the disease, or there'll be prophylactic treatments. What that means, it sounds like what it means. It means there's things you could take when you're around somebody you know that you've been exposed to. For example, if you have a relations with someone who has HIV, there's certain drugs you can take that can reduce your chance of infection. The same type of drugs are being looked at right now and researched. We'll have additional ways to combat this virus in the coming months. And to Jim's point, eventually we'll have a vaccine. But if we let it rip, if we just say, back to work Easter Sunday, we're going to have more people clogging our hospitals and dying than we've ever seen in this country, ever. It'll be like the 1918 flu epidemic or pandemic. So I understand the gravity of what we face, and we have to take it seriously. And if that means putting my political ambitions aside, so be it. We'll do that. No, April 28th, it was a great day for us. It was the same day as the Democratic primary. Bernie Sanders has not dropped out of the race, and I was talking about Biden earlier. Bernie Sanders is in many ways has inspired this generation, and we all know that. And he keeps fighting for the things he believes in. So we are going to have a surge of Democratic voters. I was excited about April 28th. And we had all kinds of events planned for April 28th. I didn't want to cancel it, and I just don't want to have an election. Well, let me take a step back. The Republican Party sued to not have the election on April 28th. They sued. So any argument that they want the election on April 28th because we have to push through the virus doesn't make any sense. They literally had a lawsuit to prevent the election on that day already. They lost the case. So I'm hoping the governor pushes the date back. I pray he doesn't cancel it. I hope we have a special election. I just think having a special election at the peak of the virus is crazy. So let's do it at a time when we're safe, that we can make sure that we can have the vote. I'm all for it, but we have to figure out a way to make public safety our priority. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Do you guys follow all that?
Yep.
Or did I lose Torrin?
Yeah.
Torrin, any other?
No, I'm here. You wrapped it up. I
Good.
think that's a good place to leave it for today.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Stay strong, Jim.
Stay strong.
All right. Hey, stay quarantined, Jim.
Got it.
All right. Torrin, I'll see you soon.